Good evening and welcome to We Will Be Heard, Stories to End Gender-Based Violence, a show where perpetrators and survivors share their stories of gender-based violence. I am Arnelle Meyer and I will be your host this evening. Joining me is
Anthony Hawthorn from FAMSA Western Cape.
Veronic Libbie from MOSAIC.
And Gresham from the MenCare project.
We Will Be Heard shares stories of both perpetrators and survivors with the aim of changing the way people see domestic violence in society. The show focuses on various aspects of gender-based violence, and tonight's show is focused on perpetrator stories. All stories that are shared have been created by the actual storyteller through a digital storytelling workshop, and tonight we will be watching a story created by Paul Z.
I was the firstborn child in my family. My father, being a boxer, he taught me how to defend myself from other boys. The first sport I played was karate. And then as I grew up, I lifted irons, bodybuilding. There was this girl I loved very much. It was still my early years of dating. I was still learning all these things, how to treat a woman. One night I found her cheating with another guy. I hit her in front of that guy, and as I was hitting her, I said words like, "You see what you made me to do? You see the monster you created in me? Now you'll have to live with it." I thought I was the victim. Then the relationship ended. Things were back to normal for a while until I met this young, beautiful girl. Her love for me was something she couldn't hide. I thought to myself, no, she's still very young. I can't take advantage of her. She does not know what she's doing. Everyone could see that she loved me, and in a way, I loved her too. That one night happened, she got pregnant. She wanted to do abortion, and it was against her belief. I begged her not to. We must dance to the music we made. The truth is, I was scared too. I saw her maybe once a week. Things were no longer the same. She cheated on me while she was pregnant, which made me doubt that the baby she's carrying is mine. I was very angry. I caught her one night, and the anger I permitted in me busted out. I hit her, repeating those words. "You see what you made me to do? You see the monster you created in me? You'll have to live with it." I started ordering her around. "As long as you are pregnant with my child, you'll do what I tell you." I used power to try and make her do what I wanted. But my power was not meant for that, but to protect. We were created to take care of our women and children, and not to exercise our power and strength on them. I had a choice, but I chose to be abusive, a decision I regret. I'm taking care of her baby, but it's just not enough to raise a child without a mother. Taking a child to a clinic alone and having to face people staring at you and whispering, "Where's the mother?" It would have been better if she had walked out on us just by herself, and not because of my actions. We all have a choice, and we are what we choose to be. Be careful of the choices you make.
So we thank Paul for sharing that story with us. And as part of the 16 days of activism and fighting domestic and gender-based violence, we need to ask ourselves, what did Paul's story say to us?
I must be honest, having heard this, or should I say, having listened to Paul's story, there are two very conflict emotions that come up for me. The one is of incredible sadness. I think about the way his father taught him how to manage frustration. His father taught him how to box. and how much of that script he's just played out in his own life. But then the opposite side of that is one of hope, where he came from to where he is now, that he made a choice to be accountable and to take care of the child that he was responsible for bringing into the world, which again reinforces to me that men have the potential to care.
Thank you, Anthony. Veronica?
Yeah, just to comment on what Anthony said in terms of how this young man were taught to express his frustration. And it is a relevant story that plays on a daily basis in our community, especially when we look in terms of our gender, how men and women has been put in boxes, how men has been taught to be the aggressor, not really to cry, not to really show emotions. And we as moms, as parents, many a times our boy child will play in a community. And if the boy child come and cry and say, "Mom, this boy hit me," we as the mom or the father will say, "Go out there and go fight." So what message are we really teaching our men? We are teaching our men not to show any emotions. And with that, that is how they will go into a relationship. And there we can, listening to the story, would actually see that this man don't know how to express his anger, his frustrations, and doesn't know how to control his anger. And that is relevant in our country as such.
Thank you, Veronica. Gresham?
Well, from watching that story, there are so many aspects to that story, as Anthony has mentioned, and I can identify with 3 aspects of that story. The first aspect that I identify with was along the lines where the guy said, "Look what you made me do." And I can remember in my relationship saying that to my partner, "Look what you made me do." That is the one thing that I can identify with. The second thing that I identify with was the part where he used his power to be able to enforce it on your partner. So at that time, I thought that that was the normal thing for me to do, to tell my partner what I felt, what I think she needed to do. And I didn't know that time that I was enforcing my opinion onto her. Because all what I thought abuse was only physical abuse. But when I joined the program, I learned that there's something called verbal abuse and emotional abuse. And the third thing that I identify with is now that I have a choice. And I made the choice to behave in that way. But then I've also made another choice to go and join the program, the MenCare program. And that's where I've learned that the choices I've made were the wrong choices. And now through the MenCare program, I've learned that there's a different choice and a different path that you can follow. And that is what I've learned from your story.
You know, at FAMSA, the first thing we acknowledge is that all men have had enough shaming in their lives. And you know, when a man like that knocks on our door, the last thing we want to do is to shame him further. The starting point is always to celebrate his desire to want to change and really acknowledge that. And there's a difference between shaming somebody and teaching them to take accountability and responsibility for their actions. So I think at the heart of what we would do with that man and with all men, whether they are perpetrators of violence or not, is to instill a sense of accountability for your actions. And to help them realize that as much as they have within them power, to help them see that that power can be used both to destroy but also to build. You know, so it's one thing to focus on the illness, to focus on the pathology, but there's also a space to challenge someone to change, to be better.
Thank you, Anthony. I get a sense of empathy out of all 3 of the shares now, where you're acknowledging the client. It's not the perpetrator, it's not the abuser, it is the client, where there's a respect for him as an individual wanting to change and wanting to address that choice that was made and correct it. And I want to go back to, in Paul's story, he makes reference to how he was raised as a child, and I think the two of you both mentioned children. So how he was raised versus being a father now. So sort of what tools are in place at your organizations or through your program that you are a member of to assist with fatherhood?
Well, I think perhaps if I can take that question first, we're very involved, and this is where MOSAIC and I are working on very similar projects, but through Promodo and Sonke, Gender Justice, in a partnership, we are working with expectant fathers. So we try and reach men at that absolute crossroad in their life where they can make critical choices. And one of the things we know is that if a man connects with his child at an early age, that he's less likely to perpetrate domestic violence.
From MOSAIC side, although MOSAIC is a women organization, a training and healing center, MOSAIC also got a MenCare Plus program. And as Anthony just earlier said, MOSAIC is in partnership with Sonke Gender Justice, which is a 3-year, 4-year country collaboration with Rwanda, Brazil, and Indonesia. In terms of the fatherhood, yes, Sonke is, in terms of the counseling, we would assist the client in terms of the counseling session, and then we would then refer them to our partner organization, which is Sonke Gender Justice, where he will then get further service in terms of the fatherhood program as such.
Thank you, Veronica. Gresham, as you've made this choice in your life, how does that impact on your relationship with your children?
Well, the key word here is choice. And the thing is, the programs are available, MOSAIC is available, and FAMSA is available. But still, you as the man have to make that choice to go and join the program. The thing is, I've always seen the MOSAIC building, and I've known MOSAIC was there. And what Veronica said, it was a women's center. And I've never known about it. But how it came about was, when Veronica mentioned that I got to know about MOSAIC was because of the protection order that was taken out. And that's how somebody at the court where my wife was spoke about to her and said that there's a place called MOSAIC and they offer help for men as well. And my wife told me about the center, and the thing is, it could have gone in by the one ear and out by the other ear, and I could have thought to myself, you know what, I'm not the problem here, you see. But the thing is, I made that choice, and I decided I'm going to go and find out what they offer. And that's when I went to MOSAIC, and I found out that they offer facilities for men as well. And that's when I entered the program, and I've been part of the program since February. And it's helped me tremendously, because the thing is, that's where I've got to learn that you get different types of abuse, and you get emotional abuse, and you get verbal abuse. And the counselor made me recognize that the way that I was doing things was my way of thinking. But the thing is, I was thinking that that was the right way of doing, and she says, no, that is where you learn the skills. And through the program, they teach you various aspects in your relationship with your partner, with your children, with the rest of your family, and how what happens in your relationship, the way you treat your partner, doesn't only affect you and your partner and your children, it affects your family and your extended family. Because the thing is, what happens in your family spills out to everybody around you. And the thing is, the eye-opening thing was to me was when, like Anthony said, they're starting with young men, expectant fathers. I remember a time when my wife and I were having a disagreement, and my kids were still young that time. And that's a memory that I will never forget, that we were having a disagreement, and then I looked down and I saw my children were sitting under the table and watching us. And that's something that I will never forget. And that was the step when I realized that your children are witness to all of this. And the thing is, if your children witness this, they think that's the way of life. And if you carry on in that manner and you don't go for the help, where people like MOSAIC and FAMSA show you that this is not the way to do things, there's a different way of doing things. So the thing is, the way you do things in your own understanding, you pass it on to your children, and that's how the cycle carries on. And that's why places like MOSAIC and FAMSA are critical for men, because men need to be shown that there's a different way of doing things so that we can break that cycle and start doing things in a different way.
Thank you, Gresham. Gresham has spoken about the cycle of violence, and he has also mentioned that as much as domestic and gender-based violence happens in a home, it has an impact on extended family and communities. And so how do we encourage more men to come forward and make the choice that Paul and Gresham have made in order to break the cycle of violence? What messages do you send out?
I think for me, the first message that I would send out to all men, and not just men who perpetrate domestic violence, is that it's okay, it's safe enough to come and get help. I think one of the biggest things that men struggle with is accepting that to ask for help is not a weakness. And there's a lot of men, from the work I've done, my work I've done with myself and work I've done with other men, there are men out there that carry a lot of hurt. And it doesn't need to be that way.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, in terms of what I want to say to men is coming for counseling, it's not a weakness. There's nothing wrong with you. I think the word counseling is there's something wrong. But just to come and talk to a counselor that won't be judgmental, a counselor that would listen to you, that will understand you, and then for you then to make a decision in terms of making a choice to be non-violent, and also making a choice to work towards equality in the relationship. And I know it might be very difficult because there's a power of being aggressive. But then again, when you want to make that choice, and if we want to adhere to the Constitution, because the Constitution is saying that no to domestic violence, to treat your partner or the your wife with respect. And with that, yes, we at MOSAIC, we are there to assist you. And it's not an easy path because it's a new identity that this person have to develop now. And the other thing I also want to say, in this program, the program, yes, is for men, for him to become a respectful human being, but the program is also for the woman if they are in a relationship. Because, as Arnelle earlier mentioned about the cycle, when a woman stays too long in a cycle and being the victim, she can also then become the abuser. And due to that, it's then important where the woman is also going through counseling so that she can become empowered and to stand up and to stop domestic violence as such. And with that, where the man become a respectful person in terms of we both work then towards equality in the relationship.
Thank you, Veronica. Gresham, you mentioned earlier about identifying that it was you using power. And Anthony had mentioned that coming forward for help is not a weakness, or making use of the programs that are available is not a weakness. And how does it feel that power versus coming forward for help, how does it leave you feeling now with the choice that you've made?
Well, what I've learned is that from coming to MOSAIC, that for the 10 years that I've been married, the way I've been doing things, that was things that I've learned from my past experiences, and that is how I carried on living my life. And I did things in a certain manner, believing that that was the way things needed to be done. And coming to MOSAIC, they give you the tools because the people that use, the counselors that you speak to are equipped and they have experience in what they are talking about. So they equip you with the tools, but the thing is, you as the person still have to use those tools because they can equip you, but the thing is you still have to, that's where choice comes in. You need to make that choice to use the tools. Because in the time that I've been to counseling, you learn and you acquire different skills all the time. But the difficulty is going and using those skills in your everyday life. Because like Veronica said, you were used to doing things in a certain way. And now you're given new tools and new skills, and you need to implement that. And that's where the difficulty comes in. But through perseverance and prayer and doing it all the time, you will pull through. Because all the time there will be that old way of doing things that will come back and want you to do the old way of things. But the thing is, you have to learn that this is a new path that I'm taking, and these are new skills that I've learned, and you have to implement those skills to make the change, to break that cycle. And the thing is, MOSAIC are offering those skills, and everywhere, and it goes to all different aspects. It goes to your way you speak to your wife, the way you speak to your partner, the way you speak to your children. I never knew that there was something that Veronica told me in the counseling, that you are in a partnership with your wife, and you mustn't speak to your wife as if you're the parent and your wife is the child. So that is a skill that I needed to learn, where when I speak to my wife, I mustn't speak to her as if I'm the parent and she's the child. We must speak to each other because we are in a partnership with one another. And it's a process, and it's helped me tremendously, and the fruits can be seen in the way my relationship is strengthening now because of the counseling.
Thank you very much, Gresham. Relationships or partnerships. I would like to give everyone one final opportunity to go around, and if there's any message of encouragement that you would like to share with the Pauls and the Greshams and the other men out there. I think we'll start with Veronica.
Okay. I would encourage that if you notice that your tone of voice is going high and you start shouting, or you feel like you wanted to throw things around, that is a time where you need to call MOSAIC. Don't wait when your partner is taking out a protection order and go to court. So we can prevent that. Yes, we are all human beings. It's normal for us to get angry. But when our anger moves into behavior, that is when it moves, when you become aggressive. So when you identify these signs, it's time to say, I need to go and talk to someone because I'm not handling my anger in an appropriate way. And that is when we can stop, where woman is sitting daily at Wynberg Court, at Cape Town Court, at all the other courts. So we can prevent. And that is my message that I want to leave, not just for the women, for the men, but for everybody. That we are in control and we do have choices, but we don't have a right to become abusive. And anybody can be an abuser, and anybody can be a victim. So you don't have to feel ashamed. If you identify these signs and symptoms, phone MOSAIC, book an appointment, and one of the counselors will listen to you and assist you in terms of how to deal with your anger. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica.
What I would like to say is that it all boils down to your choice, and you need to make that choice. So the thing is, there are facilities available, MOSAIC, FAMSA is available, and the thing is, it's up to you to make that decision and to make that choice. And without the choice that you're going to make, you need to make the first step, because the door is there for you already. And MOSAIC, their doors are open. All we need to do as men is to step out and step through that door and say, I'm coming for help. it's not a weakness, it's a strength to come for help. So you're not showing weakness by going and saying that I need help. It's a strength, because it will also show you where the areas in your life where you need to build up on, because life is a learning curve daily, and the thing is we fall short every day. And the thing is, MOSAIC and FAMSA, they are there to help men, not only men but women as well, because the thing is, men, it's a good thing for the men to go, but it's even better if the man and the woman goes and they do it together, because they both learn the skills and then together they walk on the same path. Because if only the man goes and if only the woman goes, they're walking two separate paths. But for them going together, they can go on the same path, and with them walking on the same path, that does wonders for family life as well.
Thank you, Gresham.
Well, FAMSA's core business is relationships. And if your relationship should be a place of fulfillment, a place of joy, but if your relationship's a place of fear and of sadness, well, maybe it's time to think about that and consider giving us a call.
Thank you, Anthony. So in closure, I'd like to thank Anthony, Veronica, and Gresham for sharing as openly as they did. We hope that tonight's show assisted in shifting the way we look at perpetrators in terms of domestic and gender-based violence. So before we go tonight, we'd like to welcome you to please tune in to Cape Town TV's telethon, which is going to be from the 5th to the 9th of December. And this would be your opportunity to call in, donate, and assist with making the station bigger and growing Cape Town's favorite TV station. Thank you and good night.